Hi, it's Lena, your accent coach and speech language pathologist, helping you to become a clear and confident communicator. Today, we're talking about mistake number 4 from the most common mistakes series that non-native English speakers make, and essentially that is devoicing or dropping the last sound in the word. It's a very common mistake, so definitely listen in. Okay, let's get to it.
Mistake number 4, which is dropping or devoicing the last sound in the word. So what this means is that you either do not pronounce the last sound, so you drop it. So instead of saying dog, you'll say da. Or instead of saying bad, you'll say ba. And you do not make the last, or you do not mark that last sound, meaning you do not pronounce it, which is a big mistake that unfortunately a lot of non-native English speakers make. So it is something to be very conscious about when you are speaking English. Besides dropping the last sound, you can also devoice, meaning instead of pronouncing the last sound as a voiced sound where your vocal folds vibrate, right? So instead of saying dog, which is a voice sound, g is a voice sound, you say it as dog, which is a sister sound of G, because G and K are basically g, k, are pronounced the same way, except for that voicing part. And you are going to devoice that part, meaning changing the phoneme, changing the sound to another sound. So bad becomes bat, mad becomes mat, because you are devoicing that last sound. So why is that important? So here are some of the side effects of dropping the last sound of the word and devoicing your sound. And lower clarity and articulation is going to be a common side effect with a lot of these mistakes that we talk about in the lives, right? Because whenever we mispronounce something, or we don't move our mouth enough, or we don't stress the words correctly, or really we don't say things like intended to in English, we are going to lower how clear we speak, and our articulation is not going to be as clear, right? So this is something that is usually affected. You will also change the meaning of the word, because if you're saying bat instead of bad, or dog instead of dog, or daw instead of dog, you're not saying the right sound. So the word changes its meaning. Your intelligibility will be reduced, because when you're talking and you're dropping these sounds or you're devoicing sounds, you're going to be saying incorrect words. So then people are going to misunderstand you, and there will be communication breakdowns. The messaging will get lost in what you're trying to say, and how people are understanding you, and how they're going to respond to you if you're saying something incorrectly, right? So there's going to be that communication breakdown. Okay, so the benefits of pronouncing the correct sounds and marking the sound. Marking meaning making sure you do say that last sound versus dropping it. So you will become more intelligible, right? Because you're going to pronounce the sounds correctly. You're going to pronounce them correctly, like I said in the next point, and you will sound less accented, right? Because you're going to be pronouncing the words the way that they're intended to be. And there will be no communication breakdown, like we keep on touching about, because that's a big thing. If you are not exchanging messaging with the way they're intended to be exchanged, it's a big deal, right? Because you're constantly communicating with something, and now it might be through Zoom, which adds on, I think, another layer of complexity. It makes it a little bit harder, because sometimes, you get glitchy when you're talking to somebody. You might lose the internet connection. There might be a delay. So there is already that going against you. And on top of that, having the communication breakdown of not saying the words correctly, it adds on another layer of frustration sometimes, right? So it's something to pay attention to very much right now. So how to say the last words or the last sound in a word correctly? We're going to practice. I wrote down a few practice words up top with the sounds b, d, and g, which are voiced sounds. So they're intended to be pronounced as voiced sounds. And at the bottom here, we have some minimal pair practice with the voice sounds that we have up top and their sister sounds. So the sister sound of B is P, because B is pronounced the exact same way. Your mouth is made the same way, except one is voiced, one is unvoiced. So for one of them, your vocal folds vibrate. For the other one, they don't. Now the D and T is the same thing One of them is voiced, one of them is unvoiced. G, k. One of them is voiced, one of them is unvoiced. So minimal pairs, when you have two words together that are minimal pairs, the only difference that is between minimal pairs is that one of the sounds is different, right? So in this case, it's just that voiced sound. So it's a good practice for you. So let's practice. I'm going to read the words up top, the b, d, and g words, and just repeat after me so you're able to do some practice for yourself. Sub, dub, bib, club, lab. Okay, let's do it one more time. Sub, dub, bib, club, lab. So it's not sup, dup, bib, club, lab. It's not, right? Because that will change the meaning of the word. It's that b sound that we're marking at the end. Now, the minimal pairs for B and P make it a little bit tricky because you have to say both of those sounds. And if you struggle with this, they might sound the same. So pay attention. Make sure you're listening to what you're doing. And what helps is if you put your hand here, you should be feeling a vibration for the b at the end of the words in the first column. So it's hob, hop, cub, cup, nab, nap, tab, tap, abs, apps, right? So for the p, I didn't feel the vibration because it's unvoiced, but the b, I felt my vocal folds vibrating right here, my throat. So this might be helpful to you if you don't necessarily hear it with your ear yet. But the more you practice, the more you pay attention to the sounds, you'll be able to hear them more clearly. Now let's do the d. Afraid, bad, bread, outside, cried. So I'm really pronouncing that last sound as a voiced sound, right? Because d is voiced. So it's not afraid or bat. It's not bread, outside. So it's something to really pay attention to, because if we say bat instead of bad, you know, those are two very different things. So it's something to pay attention to a lot when you're talking. Okay, so we're gonna do minimal pairs for D versus T, and the T is a sister sound of a D. D is voiced, T is unvoiced. Had, hat. Build, built. Bead, beat. Seed, seat. Played, plate. All right, make sure you're repeating after me because this is good practice for you. Let's go on to the g sound. So g is voiced. So let's practice it at the word level here. Big, unplug, pig, iceberg, frog. So I am pronouncing it loudly at the end. When you are saying these G words in conversation, they're not going to be so strong, you know, but for the purpose of us learning how to say this last sound correctly, you can over deliver it, let's say, right? You can say it in kind of an unnatural way, just so your muscles and your brain learns how to pronounce it. And then once you put it in connected speech, eventually when you're there, it's going to sound more natural. So don't worry if this sounds a little bit unnatural. It's just practice and building those new connections in our brain and teaching our muscles how to say them correctly. Okay, so the minimal pairs are for g and k, because g is voiced, k is unvoiced, and there are sister sounds, right? So if you want to put your hand here, if you need to, to make sure the g, you feel like your hand is vibrating. For the g words and the k, it's not. You can do that if that's going to help you. So it's sag, sack, hog, hawk, flag, flack, bag, back, bug, buck, Okay, good practice, everyone. And you can go back to these words and practice them more without me, because even just having these, I think 30 words here or 30 sets of practice words, or well, I guess it's more because it's minimal pairs as well, but the target word is the voice words, so 30 voice words. It's great practice. And you can go back to this multiple times, and that's fine if it's the same words. It's about marking those sounds at the end. So here's a little recap of what we talked about today. Mistake number 4 is dropping the last sound in a word and devoicing the last sound. Why is it important? You want to articulate your words correctly. If you are dropping or devoicing, you will sound more accented and you will change the meaning of the words that you're saying. So practice the voiced and unvoiced sounds, minimal pairs, and auditory training, meaning pay attention when you are listening to people talk and when you are practicing. So you're understanding and sending the right messages to your brain, right? If you don't understand it, how can you correct it?
You did it! You just finished the 4th most common mistake that non-native English speakers make video: devoicing or dropping the last sound in the word. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you always know when new videos are out. Okay, if you have any comments or questions, leave it down below. If not, I will see you in the next video.